This video is partnered with the nonprofit Anime for Humanity, who is fundraising for mental health awareness for Annie Mae. More information at the end of the video.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Popmosis Film, where we are, this month it's anime, so we're looking at another anime film, and we're going to look at the film Your Name, which was Tyler's recommendation for the month. Paul doesn't get one. I guess Akira, our last film we did was kind of for both Paul and I, so that's kind of, by the way, I am Josiah, I am a writer, and we are joined by Tyler, a former critic, and Paul, a future professional animator. So we have some different perspectives and insights that we're bringing to you for Your Name today. So how are you guys doing today?
I'm doing okay. You know, today was a little stressful day from technical difficulties
aside. Yes,
I definitely got to watch this movie, which is a very big deal amongst us weebs, and so there's that. Yeah.
I'm doing okay. I'm just really tired. I'm like at the final stretch of my classes, so I'm just like constantly like obsessively tinkering my scenes and polishing and shit.
Paul would be an animation professional if his classes to become an animation professional don't kill him first.
Exactly. That's if I don't respond to the next, to the next episode, then you'll know what happened. I didn't make it, so I apologize.
Watch your name in the episode because like you're just sick or just like something else, like nothing has to do with school at all, and then everyone's like,
I just died.
Did he just fucking die? Like all of our
absolutely.
all of our audience
There's
are just
people
like,
will be wearing these black wristbands that say Paul on it, and Paul's just like, no, just.
And in the next episode, look in the right corner. We'll put a little
memorial.
Yeah, a little memorial.
It's like at the Oscars, in memoriam.
And then the picture of me on the couch will like fade away. And then I have like a timeline, like 2021.
We get you like I'll be here and you'll have like Sarah McLachlan in the background playing like I will remember you, like with a guitar and a piano.
I just hope that you remember my name.
Which brings us back to the film we're talking about today.
To make Tyler cringe, like that's something. That's like talent right there to make Tyler cringe.
I mean, I'm mad because I didn't think of it. In all honesty,
that's some nice segue work right there. So Your Name, originally Kimi no Na wa in Japanese, and as with the Akira episode, I will butcher Japanese names, so I apologize. My dog is Japanese, and I say his name the American way anyway, but he's cool with it.
Wait, can I ask first, did you guys watch it with Japanese and English subtitles or English cast first? How did you guys watch it?
So Paul and I actually watched this one together, by the way. So how do we watch it, Paul?
Yeah, it was dubbed. We watched it dubbed.
Oh, okay. You watched it dubbed.
Yeah. And really because, for me, I that was a choice. Had I a chance to watch it again, I would watch it with the subtitles. But the first time watching it, I would find it a little bit of a challenge. I knew I wouldn't have time to watch it more than once, to kind of take in everything visually while trying to read the text, too. Yeah. So I kind of just for my purposes, that was why I went with that. Because even when I looked, I'm like, Japanese or English dub.
The same with me. Like I want to see the visuals and the animation.
Absolutely.
And the acting choices and stuff like that of the movie. So
I'm sorry. I just wanted to know. So
and for me, like in an ideal world, I watch both ways if I can, so that I can most fully experience it. That's the way I like to do it. So I understand why people are all like, subs not dubs or dubs not subs. Either perspective works for me because I try to watch both. To just fully take it in. I wouldn't, in animation it works because...
And we'll definitely talk about that today.
Yeah, exactly.
In a little bit. So.
Yeah. So Your Name, released on July 3rd, 2016, first in Los Angeles at Anime Expo, which it premiered at, which was interesting to me. And I realized that's probably the last time I was at Anime Expo because that was before my daughter Penny was born. And... I just know we haven't been to Anime Expo since then, so I think that was the last time we were there. We may or may not have been there that year. I just can't remember because that was the first year Judy was pregnant at Comic-Con, and it was pregnancy at Comic-Con is like seriously hard. Judy will tell you guys. So
I actually remember seeing you guys at Comic-Con that year.
Yes.
I think there's a picture, right?
Well, we saw Tyler.
Oh no, that's after Penny was born.
The first year with
the
Penny.
next year.
Yes,
Yeah.
the first year with Penny.
Yeah.
Which was Penny. Penny's been to Comic-Con more than most people in her life, and she's not.
I
even
know.
4 years
She's
old.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. And then it was released on August 26, 2016 in Japan, so it actually premiered here before it was released in Japan, which I thought was interesting. It was the general release in the US was the following April, on April 7th of 2017. It was based it wasn't really based on a Japanese light novel, but it was right before the film came out, they released it as a Japanese light novel. And if you're not familiar with that genre, it's basically the greatest equivalency here would be like young adult kind of fiction, like kind of school age kids. That's the best parallel that I could think of, because I'm not super familiar with what a light novel is, even though I vaguely am. So, but I do know
they're really big. There was a lot of anime, especially around this time. One of my favorite animes of all time, No Game No Life, was actually started out as a light novel that turned into an anime, and now it's a manga later.
Okay.
And,
it's
we're waiting for season 2.
I feel like even though here at the time it was really, really big to go into young adult stuff to bring. After Harry Potter, you had the Hunger Games and the Divergent stuff, all these things that they were trying to grab from young adult fiction to like make into movies, because it's like, oh, this has a pre-existing audience. Can we broaden that audience the way we did with Harry Potter or the Hunger Games? So my daughter's name Primrose because of the Hunger Games. We're not like huge fans of the Hunger Games. We enjoy the Hunger Games, but we love the name, so that's why my little one is Primrose. So that came out a little bit before the film, but it was really written essentially as a novelization of the film by the director-writer Makoto Shinkai. My own writing here, Shinkai. Shinkai. Okay.
Makoto Shinkai.
Okay, thank you. I literally like, it's not my pronunciation's bad, but I also can't do my own writing.
We should have subtitles in kanji underneath.
Can you understand?
If only I knew more kanji.
So a budget of $3.4 million US. It was, 370 bajillion yen, however that works. It grossed $5 million in the US and opened at 1.8. But here's the real important number for the significance of this film. 359 million worldwide. That's really what you think. And especially when such a small percentage of that is, I can't even imagine. That's like an insignificant percentage that is us here in the US that went and saw this movie in a theater. But the rest of the world was all about this film. So I think that's a really significant thing, because when I was doing my typical sort of stats and information on this part of the movie, I'm like, wow, that really shows you something here. So whether or not, and we'll get to our feelings, whether or not I like it or whatever, it's like, okay, whether or not we as Americans like it, there's a lot of people that care about this film and went to see it. So I thought that really stood out to me. So Tyler, where do we start since you picked this film?
Oh man. So let's maybe start off with the sub and dub. Well, there's a lot of things I do want to talk about, but let's start off with like the sub versus dub, because actually I have seen this movie a total of 4 times in my life. 2 times here for this. I watched it twice for this. I saw this in theaters. I didn't get to see it at AX because that line was insane. And no, thank you. AX is always really busy for me. It's a lot of fun, a lot of partying and craziness. But so I did get to see this in theater with actually our Shukai cast. And it was awesome. And then I saw it again later on. And now I got to see it. The first time I watched it subbed, like I had watched it all prior. And then I just got done right before this, actually, watching the dub. And man, I do prefer the sub on this. I'm not one of those people who's a diehard sub over dub fan. I'm really not. There's actually a few anime that I actually do prefer the dub over. I think that the dub cast was okay. They did okay, but man, this is one of those movies where I really think that there's a big disconnect between the two actors. Like, as much as they were just okay, there's so much more emotion in the Japanese, and I sound like a total weeb, but it really does actually create a disconnect. I am conflicted. I really if I had seen the dub for the first time, I wouldn't have liked this movie. I really don't think so. And I think there's a couple other dub movies that I actually really did like. Like, I actually am one of the few people who actually preferred Joseph Gordon-Levitt, John Krasinski, and I forgot her name, in The Wind Rises cast over the actual Japanese cast. That's Hayao Miyazaki's last film for now. And
that man will never retire. He's always like, I'm gonna retire, yeah, right. And then he goes back into it. It's like,
yeah, I'm gonna retire in 20 years when I'm dead.
He's like every athlete, at the top of their game. Like, I'm gonna retire, then he does it. And
he's Cher. You're just like, she's like, you're not going to Cher. You're not gonna retire. Stop it. But I don't know. So, what was it like watching this in dub? I mean, what did you guys think about the cast with the surroundings, having it really be set in Japan? Like, heavily geography was a big deal in this movie.
Josiah, go first.
Well, first of all, address the geography. So Paul and I watched this together, which was a fun change in the age of COVID. But to watch a movie with anybody other than Judy. Not that I don't like watching movies with my wife, but.
Ooh, note to Tyler to edit that out.
No, that's the clip from this episode.
Oh yeah,
right. Yeah, I know. That's the sizzle reel.
Judy knows what's up in a good way. She knows I'm insufferable. But watching it with Paul helped me in terms of the geography because Paul visited Tokyo and been to Japan, so he gave me a sense of geography in that regard that I wouldn't have had. He's like, oh, that place is this. And this is so that kind of gave me a little bit of a better sense in terms of that part of the story. That actually helped me in a different way I didn't really think about when I watched it with Paul. Just someone who has been to Japan, been to Tokyo. So I felt that it wasn't a great film, but it wasn't a bad film. And I think that's one of the things that I did think could be better. I didn't think the voice cast really worked as well as it could. And I like I said, had I had time to do so, I definitely would have watched it subbed rather, so that I could get the full experience and feel that.
Would you actually do you plan on doing it, or are you just kind of like?
I guarantee you I will eventually, just because the curiosity of me. I don't know if it'll happen immediately, just because
the what if. You're just like, what if?
No, I definitely it'll be on the list of things for me to do at some point. I will do it. I guarantee you that. Again, with the kids and everything, most of my film watching time is things I really, 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 really want to see, and then movies for this, because I'll try to, if I can, watch them multiple times. This was an exception. This is a rarity where I've only seen the film one time for this specific episode of the podcast. So I usually like to watch it more than once if possible, but sometimes it doesn't work out. But I definitely want to see it. But I do think my experience without knowing what that version's like, it did hurt the film. It could have been better, and I felt there was a bit of a disconnect with the characters. And that was
absolutely.
And hearing that, it seems like that might point to why. So
What about you, Paul?
As far as the sub dub kind of that comparison,
just the dub cast, and like you said, I mean, you've been Josiah said, you've been to Japan, so you kind of see this thing. So it was kind of weird.
So that's the thing. It's like I enjoyed it initially because I saw different sides from Japan. Like there's Tower Records in Shinjuku, which is like a 10-story like old Tower Records, and Tower Records doesn't exist here anymore. And actually, the Tower Records is like something that I grew up with in Sacramento. It started in Sacramento, and then it went nationwide. But it started with Sacramento, and I remember going to the original location with my dad when I was younger. So I grew up with Tower Records. I grew up there. I remember every once in a while you'll see vending machines with Boss Coffee, and I remember when I was in Tokyo, there was Tommy Lee Jones was promoting Boss Coffee, so you see his face there, his profile, promoting Boss Coffee. I saw the Lobby store, which in Shinjuku, which is like this 10-foot. It's like a Best Buy, but 10 stories, and then right at the base, you can see the screen, from of it, but directly below on the first floor is a Yoshinoya that actually is like really good food. Like it's weird because Yoshinoya is like really good in Tokyo.
That's what Judy said as well. Judy, who went many years ago before I even knew her to Japan, she said the same thing. She's like, it's so awful here and so good there.
It's like, it'll give you explosive diarrhea here, but over there, it's like, it's great. It's great. And I would go there quite often.
The American Yoshinoya will not sponsor Popmosis.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. But yeah, I just enjoyed seeing the different scenarios, the different backgrounds, like different parts of Tokyo, and it kind of like, I even like Mori Tower when they went up and looked at the view. I remember that was Mori Tower based on like the architecture of it, and that's in the Roppongi Hills. Like, the whole time I was like pointing out, like Josiah's trying to watch a movie, and I'm pointing, that's there, that's there, that's there. As far as like
that's the downside of watching a movie with Paul, but also the upside. It's a weird good bad.
Paul was sightseeing, and Josiah was critiquing. I'm kidding.
Yeah. As far as the whole so my initial impressions were, I was like begrudgingly watching this movie, and I was like, it's not, because I have a lot of hangups about anime, which we can go into further. But I ended up enjoying it. Is it a great movie? No. I was there's a lot of things that they could really do to make it a stronger movie. But yeah, I mean, and then as far as the sub-dub thing, it all depends on like the first way I view it. Like Akira, I prefer the dub.
I actually really like the dub too.
The dub is amazing. It all is based on the voice acting. Like if the voice acting is great, then the dub is great. Cowboy Bebop, I love the dub. Stephen Bloom, I love his Spike Spiegel.
Yeah, Steve Bloom.
And whoever does Jet has a great... Yeah, he has a great voice. Neon Genesis Evangelion subtitle. Dragon Ball Z subbed.
Yeah, I cannot do Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, DBZ the dub is like really awful, and it's been awful for years.
I don't like Piccolo, Vegeta, or Goku's voice in Japanese.
And they're all done by the same guy. I forgot what his name is, but yeah, it just depends on the movie. It depends on the property. But yeah, that's about it for me.
Real quick, while we're on that topic, just talking about Japan and Paul.
I'll continue on. But yeah,
we did a video. Okay, we did a video after Paul went to Japan on his collecting in Japan. So visit Josiah is Right. We'll probably link it below as well. You can see a video Paul and I did about his collecting trip to Japan and some of the things that he bought collecting. So he brought all this stuff to my house, and the joke was, well, you're going to leave it here, right? And he got a couple of things he did leave me, such as the Luke Skywalker here, which this is
that's cool
from Japan. This is the ultimate in Luke Skywalker. It's the coolest action figure I own. So yeah,
that's awesome.
We check out that video. So.
Of course. So why I wanted to bring this up is because there's one thing about this movie that a lot of anime fans and a lot of my friends and a lot of people talk about is this is a movie. So out of the 4 times I watched this movie, I've cried 3 of the 4 times, and I did not cry today during that dub. And that is the biggest disconnect. This movie is something that it really does pull at your heartstrings, I think. I'm one of those people where I do like this movie. I have a lot of respect for this movie, especially for what it did to not only help bring over a lot more animated movies. Like this one kind of opened the doors because it was a really big success. It was way bigger of a success than they thought it was going to be. And out here, and especially worldwide. And because of this, we got a lot more movies that got to release out here, at least in theaters. Like one of my favorite movies is A Silent Voice. This movie kind of opened the door for that. And I just remember seeing it in theater and seeing like all of us just in tears at the end of this movie, and that English cast really ruins the end of this movie. It is the wrong emotions. There's a lot of things where it reads wrong. And I think it's what it is that like, here in America, we don't like our boys to be really, we don't like our men to be like really, really, really emotional a lot. And it's something that turn off. And that's unfortunately the main character is like in this movie. He's not like how he is when you listen to the Japanese character, because the Japanese character is very vulnerable, and that's the whole point of this movie. It's a sci-fi romance movie, or it's a rom-fi because like rom-com, right? No.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you coinage? Are you gonna coin that one?
You know what? Maybe not so much. I saw Josiah's face.
Yeah.
I saw Josiah's face, and that was a hard.
I'm sorry,
no.
Tyler.
So
I just had a brain aneurysm.
Yeah.
Anybody can buy the rights to Romfi if you give me one Dogecoin. No.
Dogecoin.
How much does the URL cost for that?
Yeah. Right. I know. Jesus. But anyway, like this was a really big movie and a big tearjerker. I did definitely cry a lot more in oh my God, I just said A Silent Voice. But like I really do like this movie, and I liked what it did to pave the road for now and really show that Americans actually do want anime movies in theaters and not just like on events and stuff. And so evident of the week that we are recording this, Demon Slayer just dominated in the box office, beating Mortal Kombat, a highly looked at, a highly sought, film that people were excited for, and it beat it. The first anime movie to hit number 1 in the box office in America, and not like trying to give Your Name all the credit. It's just I really,
I see what you mean. It's like a stepping stone to kind of bring like anime in the limelight. Basically, it's instrumental in doing that.
No, because even when I talked about those numbers don't lie. And even here, even though that $5 million is not much, that's still a financial success. If just in terms of the budget, and I'm sure they didn't bend over backwards marketing it here. So
yeah, they added weeks, like with that and the Dragon Ball Z movie Battle of the Gods, like it blew up, and they added weeks, and that's why originally they thought maybe like, well, we'll make 1.5 million, maybe like, but that's what I'm saying is like this kind of made it where you don't see anime movies from a Fandango event. Now you see anime movies because the theaters want them there. They're not just streaming it through some what is it? Fathom
events.
That's what I was thinking about. Okay. Fathom events. But so now they're not Fathom events. Like Demon Slayer is just a box office release, and it's amazing. And so like that's what I'm saying. It's like I do like this movie. I don't love it. I do think it's great though, and we'll talk about why I think it's great. We'll talk about why we feel what it is. But I just wanted to talk at least about the sub and dub, and at least I wanted to hear what you guys thought about like the relationship between the story. And like for me, I cry at this movie every single time. Now 3 for 3 in Japanese, and this one the whole time I'm like, oh, that's okay, all right. I got no emotion in that story whatsoever.
The big problem that I have with it, other than story structure, is the characterization. Basically, what they should do is have have Mitsuo, have Taki, have them live their regular life, then do the body switch. Then you see, so you'll get to know the characters. You get to know how they go through the day. They do the body switch, and then you see Taki and Mitsuo's body, and vice versa, and you see how they interact with the world differently in that other person's body. So you get, and this accomplishes 2 things. You get to know the character better, and you get to know how the character is in that odd scenario. And then, so like the biggest thing is the characterization. I feel like the characters are very one-dimensional, and I don't really know a lot about them, And so I was really connected to them in the way that I wanted to be. And I'll give you an example of Akira. In the first 5 minutes, you have Tetsuo. He's working on the bike. Kaneda comes out. He's like, you can't handle that. Tetsuo's like, yeah, I can. I could, So, from right there, first minute, there's sibling rivalry, right? So they go off, speed off, and then you see a car stopped by the motorcycles. So you say, okay, they're kind of outside of the law. They're like they're renegades. Then they have the fight in the freeway. So they live a dangerous life. Like Kaneda's a thrill seeker. He does chicken with the head clown. And he stops, so you understand a lot about the character visually based on the choices they make in that first 5 minutes. And in that first 5 minutes, I got so much about Tetsuo and Kaneda as their character in terms of the characterization than I got in the whole movie for Mitsuo and Taki. And so that's what really is. I didn't get so involved in the movie as I wanted to because I didn't these characters felt cookie cutter. The choices they made didn't feel unique to them. I didn't understand them as a character. And so in situations like this, you definitely need to set the characters up. You need to introduce the scenario and then how they react to it. And then you kind of need them to play around with that scenario. Like Groundhog Day, when he's like, kind of fucking with the local townsfolk of Puxtani. Like, they need to kind of play with the scenario, the Groundhog Day scenario. They need to play with the body switch scenario a little bit. And then there's always a scene where that they're convincing the people that this is what's happening, and they're not believing it. So there's like certain tropes that they have in these kinds of movies that didn't happen.
I actually have to disagree. I actually kind of like the fact, because we've seen a lot of body switching movies. We've seen Freaky Fridays. We've seen a lot of it, 13 going on 30. Because I think what you described was a lot more like 13 going on 30. Vice versa. Yeah. Face Off. No, I'm kidding.
That's like the first one. Vice versa is the first one that, like, in my world that I remember seeing. So
yeah. I kind of like the chaotic where it's they just wake up and they're just like the audience where we don't know and they don't know. Like I like the fact that it kind of felt like we woke up with them, being like, what the fuck? This is not my body. And like kind of seeing like how he reacted in her body, being like, what am I doing? Boobs. And like, and seeing a sister and stuff like that. I actually kind of really like the chaotic where it just happens. And then it's them trying to figure it out. And then along the way, falling in love. And I think like with that sporadic moment where it's just like one single moment can just open the door with no explanation. And to me, that's why I like this movie, because again, we've seen so many body swapping movies and they're always the same.
I would say you're both kind of right. I feel like it could have worked as it was with them body swap, but I feel like what Paul's saying, the characterization wasn't there, so that, because basically no matter what body they're in, you need to understand who that character is. Whether they're in the right body or not, you need to make sure you understand who that is, who they are, what motivates them, what their world is about. And there was they tried to do it, and it just didn't connect, I felt. So I think Paul's way is one solution, but what you're saying is I feel like it could have worked the structurally the way they did, and it just didn't, because they didn't connect the characters to that world. Like there's a way to show that character who that character is by bouncing them off the world they don't understand, so you fully get that character, plus you get the other character's world. They just didn't execute.
No, I agree with Paul with the rest of it. I do love the beginning. I do love the confusion, because when I walked into this movie, all I knew was, it's a sad body switch movie, and that's all I knew. And I was like, okay, and I was getting ready for like Freaky Friday, where it's just like, okay, and turn. Like, I was waiting for that, and
but the
it
thing
wasn't
is,
that.
like,
it was more just the chaos. I was like, what's happening? It already happened? Like, did I miss something? Did I blink and miss a scene? Like, did I fall asleep on accident already? And like, it was kind of cool. Like, but as it kept going, I agree 1,000% with what you were saying, Paul. Like, you still don't really know the characters, and it didn't do a good job.
I just like I didn't have any experience with this movie. Like, I didn't know anything about the movie, and so when you start off and like for me, if you don't hook me in the first 5 minutes, then I'm kind of like, and I was kind of like, I was watching the design, and I was like kind of antsy. Like the first hour, I was like, where are they going with this? Like and then it ramps up. Like, I would say the last 45 minutes, like when they kind of introduced the whole like, there's a 3-year separation, and like they had some intriguing ideas, and they kind of build up to them meeting each other. Then it got more interesting, but that first hour or so, I just was kind of lost. And for me, if we weren't doing an episode about the podcast, I probably would have turned it off. And I know that's not fair.
Oh wow!
But because there's a lot good about the movie, I just feel like it could have been executed a lot better, so that the whole movie, as it stands, could have been improved. But it's not bad. It's a lot, as far as expectations, better than my expectations were. I have generally, like, in regards to anime, I have like a chip on my shoulder, because for every one movie like this, there's like hundreds of really poor anime that's like fan service and like hentai and like all this other stuff, and it's like, ugh.
I mean, not really, but I
know what I mean. It's like, and it's weird because like some of the best animation is from anime. Like it elevated the art form. It's like, before Akira, before like anime, a lot of cartoons were anything adult related was risque, like heavy metal, or it wasn't mainstream. And, anime brought these adult themes and these really interesting concepts and ideas and much like nuanced storytelling into the fold, into animation. And so it really elevated the art form. And, like Cowboy Bebop is like so much style and so good. And it's like so great. And I'm sure like people love jazz music just with like Cowboy Bebop. But like without anime, like we wouldn't have Pixar, we wouldn't have this like the nuanced storytelling and like really great animation that we do nowadays. And anime like was a gateway for this to happen. And so to see anime become what it is today, where like they kind of forget the rules of filmmaking, or they just are not good with.
I have to disagree wholeheartedly on that.
Oh no,
one.
you can disagree, but like when they forget things, or like when characters are like the characterizations are not very good, then it's kind of it's alarming.
You haven't been watching anime movies then?
Yeah, I haven't,
oh my
but
god,
it like lost me. You know what I mean? So
oh man, that okay. Oh man. Okay. So there is one filmmaker.
I thought your head was gonna explode. Like you see your face like you're like freaking out. I was like, holy shit.
It's just because here's the thing, I find this very interesting, and like I'm actually happy too, because I feel like you and I need to hang out, and I need to show you some amazing anime, because I will say this, as much as I love Akira, I love Akira. Anime has gotten much better since then, and I wholeheartedly agree that. And there's one man in particular, Mamoru Hosoda, who did Summer Wars, who did Girl Who Leapt Through Time, Boy and the Beast, and absolutely all of his movies 10 out of 10s. Every single one of them. Yeah. He's better than Hayao Miyazaki, in my opinion. I absolutely love The Girl Who Leapt Through Time. It is unbelievable. I love this film. I think that the animation of this film is... This is the most gorgeous anime film I think ever.
Oh, Your Name? Your name is?
In Your Name, yes. And Kimi no Nawa. I love the animation in this movie.
I think like the backgrounds are really well done, but like the way the animation is, it's like the typical like with anime acting choices, like the blushing and all that stuff. It's like that's the style. Yeah, I know that's a style, but the thing is, like every movie has its own style, and like the early anime has like Cowboy Bebop has a very different style than Akira, has a very different style from Dragon Ball Z, but the style in this movie is very similar to a lot of other anime.
But I would also compare them to, because they also have the same tropes. Like they all have the same tropes, like the white eyes. Whenever I mean, Cowboy Bebop had the same thing. Like all of them, the three lines when somebody's mad.
There's certain things that are consistent in all forms of anime, though. That, to be fair to that,
Sorry, Josiah, you haven't spoken in a while. Josiah, please talk.
No, I'm just taking it all in. I think I see what Paul's saying, though, because I feel like I'm somewhere in between in terms of anime, because I feel like Paul and I have maybe a little bit more have been burned by the bad stuff, and so therefore. When something like this comes along, which we then see as good, not great, it just is like, well, this doesn't elevate the genre. That when you're comparing it to something like Akira, it's like here, and then you get a few things there, and then it's like all these valleys, and then this movie maybe brings it back up here, but then there's just, and I think it's a tough argument, because if you look at any genre of film, superhero movies. Maybe Endgame is this unbelievable spectacle, but if you compare it to Catwoman and things like that, it's not a fair comparison. So I think you have to
I would say there are a lot more.
And I know Paul is the person that would be willing to expose himself to things he hasn't seen. Let me finish the sentence.
But I do want to say that's a good point, though. I think there is a lot of crappy superhero movies, Zack Snyder's Justice League included, and that still come out today. And I think it's also would be unfair for somebody to be like, yeah, superhero movies are the worst, because look at Zack Snyder's, look at Batman versus Superman, and when you're just like, Endgame and Infinity War exists, right? And they're just like, yeah, but it's a superhero movie. I feel like that's also how you kind of what you're saying about anime films, because like I said, I actually think we're in the golden age of anime right now. I sincerely do. Like, I think it's. I
don't know if I'd go that far, but I now that you say that, I'm like, I'm intrigued to see things because I feel like I've certainly, as a viewer, have stepped back because, if all superhero movies were the quality of a Catwoman or something, I would probably stop watching superhero movies. But then Marvel came around and consistently made really good superhero movies. So it's kind of the way it was with anime at a certain time, where you have a bunch of movies, at least that we're getting here and get kind of some attention, that aren't that great. And therefore it kind of turns you off to that genre of film because you're like, there's only so much time in a day and I got to watch 15 new Marvel movies next month. So there you go.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. It's like with all things, like with all properties, DC, Marvel, anime, anything, it's like it's building trust, right? Mm-hmm. So, like for me, I saw that when I was younger. I sought out anime. Like in the previous episode, I showed my Akira VHS and all. Like I sought out anime and grew up with it and really loved it. And at some point after like college. After like Neon Genesis Evangelion, Gantz was a great one that I really enjoyed. There's so many the ones that I enjoyed, but after that I would seek them out, and I got burned so much. I got burned so often, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna stop because I just like this is not like I'm expecting something like Cowboy Bebop, but I'm getting like shit. I'm getting like these like poor anime, and so. Every once in a while, there's like a Naruto or there's like My Hero Academia, My Attack on Titan. There's ones that people recommend, and I'm like, oh, okay, but I just don't have like really the time to dive back into.
To be fair, Paul, you know what? One thing Paul likes to like tease Tyler for, when Tyler would be like, I hate 80s movies. And this is the equivalent. This statement is kind of the equivalent of "I hate '80s movies," Paul.
Absolutely.
But there is a difference between when we were kids and had a lot more time, where you watched a lot of the anime. Where now we're adults with responsibilities and we can't really watch the. I think that's
exactly. Because then you see one bad one, you're like, okay, I know that the next Thor movie will be good. That's a big factor.
No, to be honest, like I'm I am jaded and biased, and like I'm older, so like I'm less receptive to like new things as I was when I was like 25. To be honest, like that's honestly
Paul is the oldest on the podcast.
I am the oldest on the podcast.
The oldest in his grumpiness demeanor towards.
Yeah, I am grumpy. I'm like late stage like Harrison Ford right now. Like I'm like grumpy and shit. And so So I'm less willing to try things. So when somebody tells me that this anime, it's so great, you got to watch it. It won awards. Like it's amazing. And then I watch it, and it's okay. It's like, it's kind of alarm. It's like, oh, well, this is the best that's out now.
I wasn't. Yeah, like, I thought I did a pretty good job. I told you guys, like, it's not the greatest, but this is an important anime film that opened the door for other ones. And I think that's all I described it as. I hope. That's
the thing. It's fine. It's fine. I'm glad it's successful. It's fine. For me, a measure of success, like. A successful film to me doesn't really matter. If I like it, I don't. If I don't like it, I don't. It's just like of course. That's how it is. Yeah. Like it doesn't. Like I don't care how much a movie earns, like or what it's, how like the reputation it has. I know what I like, and if I like it, I like it. If I don't, I don't. So it's simple as that.
I have a question for you guys, though.
Absolutely.
Because we talked about sub and dub, and I'm so sorry to bring this up again, but now I have a question though. So. If we were to go ahead and rewatch this movie together and we actually watched it in Japanese, how would you walk into this movie, though, knowing that you're watching it with not only just an original cast, but also like with what I'm saying? Like, would you go in with a different mindset?
Let the Josiah talk. I'm sorry, I'm just like monopolizing.
No, you're fine.
Conversation. Go ahead, Josiah.
I was gonna say whatever it was Paul was gonna say. No, I'm just kidding.
By the way,
I'll have what she's having.
I guess I kind of already shared to an extent. I'm very curious actually now to watch it that way, and I was interested enough anyway. I think I kind of want to use this to touch on what we got a little bit into, Paul got a little bit into, the film I felt really worked, as Paul said, in like the last 45 minutes. The first hour for me was kind of a slog, and I wanted to get to where I thought it was going, and the movie was kind of showing you. And once it got on that, once he basically goes on the journey to find her, then I was really into it and I was hooked. So I feel like that part of the movie really worked. And if you find a way to squish the body switching stuff at the beginning down a bit so that can be even more, I would have loved it, I think, honestly.
And expanding and getting to know the characters as well. I agree. Like that's what Paul was saying. Yeah, but you both are saying.
Going back to the last kind of topic question we were talking about, like, or even, I guess this applies to how I would view it the next time watching with the dub. I always try to look at these movies that might not be for me now because of where I'm at in my life, things that I've experienced that have changed me. But if I was 20, this would be the most amazing film I'd ever seen in a certain respect. If I could have seen this, if this was a new movie I was able to see in a theater in particular, and that experience at that age, it would have really impacted me a lot more. I think a big part of my point of view is the search for love, especially at that time when I was searching for love. Now I've been married for 10 years and I'm very much in love with my wife. That's an important part of my life. There's no more important part of my life than Judy and my kids. Yeah. But I would feel it differently.
You're not going to chase ribbons for her.
I'm not that kid anymore. So, but at the same time, I try to put myself in that mindset so I can see what it would mean to younger me, and therefore whole lot of younger people that would attach this. And no, you don't have to be younger or anything to it, but I feel like, it's a light novel originally. That's a certain there's a certain primary demographic for that. It's more people can enjoy it. So I guess that's kind of how I would watch it. And I feel like watching it the first time, knowing what it's about and how it gets there, with watching it then with the dub, I would have that approach of trying to get myself into that mindset even more so to remember what those feelings felt like.
Paul, I'm so excited to watch anime movies. Just newer ones like Weathering with You. I think you'll absolutely fall in love. I'm going to show you a bad one too. I'm going to show you Tales of Earthsea by Goro Miyazaki, by Hayao Miyazaki's son.
Just show me the good ones,
see please. Really bad anime.
No, show me good ones first to change my mind. Like, here's the thing. I'm okay with being wrong about things. Like, I like when people change my mind about stuff and prove me wrong. Like, I don't have an ego about it. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
I was just teasing.
But I mean, here's the thing. It's like the reason why I mentioned the whole body switching, like the tropes that they have in a lot of these kind of stuff, is because those tropes really work. And like that, and in this scenario, it would work to kind of heighten the characterization of both characters and help us better understand them. And you know what I mean? So like I know the art cliche, like I'm trying to convince so-and-so, but they work. They work so well. And so I kind of wish that they did have that. To be honest with you, I probably would enjoy this movie more a second time because I always usually do. Every time I see the movie a second time, I can kind of settle back and enjoy it. The thing is, when I watch a movie, there's my critical brain is like, oh, why'd they do this choice? Oh, why this? Oh, that's interesting. Oh, wow, Tower Records. Oh, wow, this. You know what I mean? I'm overly analytical. I'm looking at all the acting choices and everything, and I can't just stop and enjoy the film.
I'm not gonna lie. I wanna do a thing where I watch a movie only with the mindset of me paying attention solely to the buildings that surrounded by them and being like, that movie was great. It had 150 buildings. I'm kidding. I'm sorry. But I don't want to say that now.
I did a video on my channel about the 90s Captain America, so go check that out. And there was a part in that where I spotted a Del Taco. And I was so excited to see a Del Taco because it was basically, that meant it was a Del Taco from 1989. And I'm from Pennsylvania and I never saw Del Taco until I came to California in 2002. So I was like, that's a Del Taco from 1990. So I get that.
I think, what? That might be a good episode. We pick a movie where we pick something really weird to focus on the entire movie and we judge it by one thing.
A very special episode of Popmosis Film.
That would be actually hilarious. I'm not going to lie. It's we'll judge like all the food in Pulp Fiction, not Pulp Fiction the movie, the food in it.
The serious side of this, though, the joke we're making aside, is what this movie does shine is the landscapes. I think Paul mentioned that.
Absolutely.
The landscapes are spectacular. The backgrounds, there's parts where there's driving, and I love the animation in those sequences, or where there's, what do you call it in animation? It's the equivalent of like parallax scrolling in a video game.
The
background moving.
Oh, the panorama thing.
Yeah, but the movement was so fluid. Like there was points where when the characters were walking through the grass, and there was some amazing stuff there in terms of the animation of the landscapes. And I felt that was really what made this movie beautiful, is the landscape stuff. That I'm not an expert in animation by any means. I have produced some very cheap, super cheap animation in the past, but it was that part of it was just gorgeous, and I would definitely, again, on a second viewing, focus on even more of the visual presentation, even though obviously the irony is that we're talking about subtitles as I'm trying to focus on the visual presentation, so I need maybe 2 or 3 more viewings of it.
I mean, after a couple minutes, you get used to reading real quickly and looking up, so which is nice.
Since I have seen it before, it helps.
That was my worry with Pan's Labyrinth. I remember walking into Pan's Labyrinth, being like, "Am I even gonna know what the hell is going on?" Like, I was like really worried about it. That was. And I mean, to be fair, the cinematography of the actual movie was fantastic. Like, there's a shot of when she's being driven. There's a shot of the trees, and you see the light pouring in through the trees, through the leaves, and like that specific shot itself is like that was first done by Akira Kurosawa, and so like I appreciate like the cinematography of this movie, and like you said, the parallax and. So there's a lot of like the world building is really great, and I like how it really drop you into like the culture of Japanese culture, and like the city of Tokyo is kind of a character itself, and like I enjoyed seeing like the different landmarks, and like it like brought me back to that time when I was in Tokyo, and I really enjoyed that. Like it was very authentic in that regard. Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it on those reasons. I'm glad you guys enjoyed this movie at all, honestly. Like, I just wanted you guys just to think it was good, not great. I just wanted y'all to think it was at least good. Because I wanted to show you
I can definitely appreciate it, for... and so, like, I had this thing where I was like, not much good anime is being made, which is maybe ignorant or short-sighted. But I would say, like, this is a good anime. Like, it's a good movie.
And I'm genuinely excited to show you, oh, man, I'm so excited. I have, like, 6 movies in my head right now that I can't wait to show you. Well, eventually.
Give me some time to let me get vaccinated first, and then we'll get there.
What are you doing right now, Paul? We're gonna as soon as this episode's over, you're watching 6 movies.
Yeah, we're watching Summer Wars right now,
and back-to-back subs and dubs, so you get the full experiences.
Well, they're all gonna be.
We'll watch it twice, sub and dub.
No, you'll watch it dub. You'll watch it subbed, and then you guys will perform a dub. That's the next challenge.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
But I think maybe the last thing we should talk about is just. Oh, I'm so sorry, Paul. Did you have more to say? I'm so sorry.
No, I mean, I just it's like it's better than I thought it was going to be. To be honest, when I came into this movie, I was like begrudging. I was like, oh. Fuck, like I don't want to watch this movie.
He really was.
I was really
why I said let's watch it together.
Yeah, and I was like, thank God. So I went and when I was watching with Josiah, and I had a good time. Like I enjoyed
I definitely
watching it with him, and we had Klondike bars, and it was great.
Yeah. Oh my God!
I didn't
what did you do for it? No,
Paul.
What did he do? No, I would probably say now that you don't have that mindset. If you watch it again, I think you'll like the beginning a little bit more as well.
But I understand the scenario.
I agree with what you're saying as well. Yeah. And I think the last thing we should talk about literally is just keep talking more about like, I honestly think the animation, like I know we still touched up on it, but I still think that there's a lot of things like this is a very fluid digital film. And this movie had an ungodly amount of assets and was a huge project that was and now like seeing something with something where like literally people like had bleeding hands making from like with Akira and everything with with old technology versus the new technology. I mean, do you think that there is a disconnect, or do you think that there is an advantage of one over the other, or how do you guys feel about old versus new with animation?
As far as anime itself, or
yeah, or I was saying just maybe just solely on Akira and Your Name.
Compare the two in terms of anime stuff. I mean,
well, not compare. No, I'm saying like what do you prefer and why?
Oh, Akira. I mean, I grew up with it, and I mean, there's so much fluidity in the way that, like, even the light trails of the bikes, and you have when you have that crazy scientist up with the army general, I forgot the name, but you see you see paper being printed out and stuff like that in the background, which is unheard of. Like, usually a lot of times in animation they have the background, they have the characters, and they don't really do much in between that. They don't have maybe they'll cast a shadow or something like that. But there's so much personality in the way all the characters are animated in Akira. Whereas I with Your Name, it's animated for efficiency and not so much as because honestly Akira is not the way it was produced. It was not very efficient. They really pull out all the stops and did all these amazing visual tricks that normally they wouldn't do. And so it probably took a lot longer for them to make. And I'm pretty sure some animes passed out doing these things.
Yeah.
Just to touch on that, with Akira, they specifically essentially pre-animated everything with a really sophisticated animatic basically to see how everything would work.
Yeah.
Which is a really inefficient way to do it because you're doing it all and then
you're doing
animating
double work,
it later.
Essentially.
Yeah. So I think do you want me to go on, Paul, or did you have more? I don't want to interrupt you. Sorry, I just want to touch on that.
I'm just saying there's so much more time and technique that was done with Akira, and it shows. And plus, I have a personal affinity to it. So to compare this to Akira to something that I just watched, it's not really fair to compare.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's very true.
It's tough because you have something that you watch that episode. Paul and I in particular both view as an absolute masterpiece of animation in general.
That's true.
Versus a movie that is a modern animated movie. And all modern animated movies, I kind of feel suffer that fate where it's a system that makes these things and can churn it out so much more efficiently. Whereas something like Akira, even early Disney in particular, they're figuring things out and innovating with animation.
Yeah.
Even early Pixar versus Pixar now in terms of the animation, it might look better, but it's much more systematic. Stories aside, so it's a hard comparison, but especially when you're comparing something that is a masterpiece to something that's a good movie.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the animation is masterful. I actually do prefer new animation, just cleaner. I do like cleaner, and I like the use of colors now that it's a lot easier to do that, and you don't have to worry about things bleeding over and making sure that because it'll be one person doing frames, like milliseconds in Akira, where you actually have one guy who's probably doing 5 minutes and having way more control of a movie like this. You know what I mean? But
you have in this kind of thing, you have one guy who's doing the grass and a girl who's doing the sky and other riggers doing this. And so it's a different it's a different monster too. But
my question was comparing Wizard of Oz to Iron Man because they're both in color. It was a bad question. I apologize.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It needs a good discussion. And that's all that really matters. Yeah. I mean, stylistically, they're completely the opposite, and a very different process in the way they're made. I just for me, this is my preference. I don't really the polish. I don't really care as much for. I like animation that's shows more of the animator's personality and character. Like 101 Dalmatians, you could see the pencil strokes in the animation, and it's a little you see pops in the animation, but it's it has so much personality to it that I appreciate it a lot more than something more recent.
But that was an example of a process they did to save money, though.
That's
true. They actually animated that way to make it cheaper.
oh, really? Okay. Maybe.
Yeah,
but
I think it looks. It's a weirdly it works because it looks really unique. But it was like a photo like process, like a kind of like a photocopy process to make it to do it more.
Oh yeah, they'd actually Xerox cells, and then they use that as the in betweens, and so
I love the character it shows, but it's just funny what motivated the decision.
Yeah.
I will say this, and this will be my final. This will also be my final thought. But I know.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
No. I will say because of that, Paul, there's a recommendation of an anime that I think you should watch. It's just called "Keep Your Hands Off a Zukin." It came out this last year, and it's unbelievable. It's also available on HBO Max, but and of course Crunchyroll and all the other things. But with this movie. Again, this is one of those movies where I cried in the theater, and I really, really, really liked it. I never really loved it. But I really did like it and respected it. And it brought on some of my favorite new animated movies, which is like A Silent Voice, and Weathering with You, and gave those opportunities to kind of shine and be in movie theaters and not just be like a Fathom event, like, oh, this is just for 10 people to come to our Fathom event, and where it was actually like, no, this is an anime movie in America, watch it, when actually had commercials and stuff, and it was just nice to not see only on Fathom events, and not seeing that at the end of the trailer or the commercials was awesome.
And you're I just want to see the real trailers, not this Fathom event thing that plays before the real trailers start.
Yeah, and it's not even really about the movie. It's about how Fathom events is exclusive, and they're just like, oh yeah, Fathom event has an amazing event for you. It's gonna be amazing. It's your name, but it's Fathom event, and you're just like, oh, okay. Fathom events just does a great job just diluting what they're promoting by just shouting in your face that they're Fathom events. And anyway, so enough about. So we're also sponsored by Fathom events. I'm kidding. No, this is a Fathom event. No.
People are watching this live. Wow.
Yeah,
I know, right? Yeah. Hi, Mom.
The one Fathom event I ever went to was a Riff Tracks thing where they did the live when I was. And the funny thing was, I learned later. I saw it in LA, and I learned that they were in San Diego. I'm like, I could have drove down there and gone to the actual event.
Yeah, so. I did that with Starship Troopers. But I really like this movie, and I like the legacy that it's created, and so that's what. That's my final thought.
I bet Josiah goes. I feel like I can talk. Get everybody's ear off.
I'm glad I watched it. I enjoyed it. I look forward to watching the sub version sometime in the future, and hope that I can reach a new level of appreciation. It's here right now. Maybe it can go to here. And I did appreciate it, and I'm glad I watched it because it's not a film that would have sort of found its way to me had Tyler not recommended it for this episode too. So I think that's kind of significant. For me, kind of like Paul, I've tuned out largely to anime just because there's only so much time in the day. So this movie is good enough that makes it okay. I want to see what's going on there that I've been missing out since 1988. That's not quite true, but it's been a while. So since
The Wind Rises,
it's definitely more than 10 years. So
it's this thing when you're younger where you have a cup, right? And you always fill it, and it always empties, and you want to put new stuff in the cup, and always fill that cup up. But when you get older, the cup is full, and you don't really want to add more to it, or else it's kind of overflow. And so that's what it. Yeah. I feel like being an old man, the Starbucks. Honestly, I'll give it a recommendation, but with an asterisk or a couple asterisks. And if you are a fan of anime, you like anime, I recommend it. If you're just a casual person that doesn't know much about anime or doesn't understand the sensibilities, I don't recommend it. If you like Japanese culture, I'd recommend it. There's all these caveats, but it's again, I appreciate the fact that when I first watched this movie, or when I first started watching, I was like, this is fucking bullshit. I don't want to watch this. And then it changed my mind. I was like, oh, this is pretty good. But I would, change a couple things here and there, and it'd make it a stronger movie. But it was pretty good. And I appreciate the fact that, you have, a different voice than me. Me and Josiah are very, simpatico. We kind of have the very similar interests, and, we're very similar a lot of times. But with you, I'm very like. There's some similarities, but like we're different too.
I'm a very modern person. I kind of like new
you're
things
more.
than I do older.
Yeah, you're very. It's so like you kind of give a different dynamic to things, and for me, like I never would have watched this movie if you haven't recommended it, but I ended up enjoying it, and like maybe I'm wrong about being so. About anime, like maybe I'm full of shit. Like I should.
Back in my day, anime was made by hands.
Yeah, no. And to be fair to me though, it's like
things went boom.
To be fair to me, it's like it's kind of hard to follow up like Cowboy Bebop and Neon Genesis Evangelion and Gantz, and like it's really kind of hard to follow those things up.
And meanwhile, there's like someone who's like, "Oh, Gigantor was the best," and Speed Racer.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing got better than Speed Racer. Oh man, Astro Boy was the pinnacle of entertainment. No, I mean, oh man, okay, we'll talk about. I'll go on a whole thing about that because I love anime. But thank you guys so much for being here. I really enjoyed talking about this movie because it does mean a lot to me. Even though I don't love this movie, it still means a lot to me, which is a very strange concept. But thank you for. Yeah,
I mean, it brought out emotions. It made you cry, so I mean, that's a good thing.
Yeah, not the last time, but yeah,
that's real art, though. But to evoke that emotion, that's a real,
of course.
That's
you guys, y'all need to watch in Japanese. I'm telling you. But thank you for listening in. You can check out all of our shows and offerings on thegrankygathering.com. Please subscribe and like this video. It means so much to us. And also check out our friends, Anime for Humanity. They are unbelievable. If you want to know, if you want to help people with mental health, or you need help with mental health, or you love anime and you want people to reach out to and connect with, Anime for Humanity is an unbelievable nonprofit that I highly suggest. And also, this podcast is available on all This is available on all podcast networks as like Apple and Google and everything, even Spotify. On Amazon and Spotify as well.
Grindr?
But yes, oh my God.
I just slipped that in.
I know, right? Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Oh my God. And have a wonderful week. Wear a mask and G.
Paul is off the rails.
Anime for Humanity is a 501c3 nonprofit organization who's dedicated to challenging the stigma surrounding mental health and creating mental health awareness through anime, manga, cosplay, and video games. We hope to see you soon at conventions across the country, where you can stop by our booth and pick up one of our free anime therapy kits. This kit is packed full of goodies like a poster, a bookmark, a button, but also some important mental health resource information. For the month of May, we're hosting our spring fundraiser, Play Anime for Mental Health Awareness Month. To find out how you can get involved, please visit our website, animeforhumanity.org, or join our Discord.
What's on the silver screen? They you wouldn't believe. Grand Geek Gathering.